Hey, everybody, welcome to week 93 of this crazy train. So here's a question for everybody as you're getting on or you watch this later on. I'm thinking we should do a 100th week anniversary in 7 weeks. So think about that. What should we do? As people are getting on here, hit us up with the Q&A for your questions, and you can harass us on the chats. If Papa Joe is on, I'm sure he will. So we got plenty of things to talk about. Nothing new in Congress, other than they continue to do what they do, which is spend our money and fight with each other and get nothing done, it seems like. So, but there is some good news out there. Okay, so yeah, we've got Omicron, blowing through. We've got inflation surging. Those are tough things. We got war on talent going on everywhere. But there is some good news. And if you're a BGW client and you had PPP refunds that you had to pay in North Carolina, you didn't have the deductibility, but now you do. You got a letter from us or a email from us yesterday with some good news. Hey, you got a refund coming and we need to get that amended, and we've got deeper discounts on our amending fees and all that kind of stuff to help you out. And so the bad news is if you're not a BGW client or you didn't get that letter from us, if you are, all right, that didn't apply. So Jack, I don't know if you want to tee us off on this, or Adam, who wants to jump in? Whoever wants to jump into the ring of fire, jump.
Adam, you can go, buddy. It's all you.
Right. Yeah, I missed a couple weeks, so it's my chance to get off all my pent up resentment and anger and frustration. So couple things for this week, but the what I would say is if you just read the tea leaves, I've been getting asked a lot of questions around, hey, what are we really expecting with the tax law changes coming up that were proposed as part of the Build Back Better bill or anything in the future, capital gains rates, all that kind of stuff. And, I just got to be honest, on the good side of the equation, good meaning like Adam Boatsman as a taxpayer, I can make the argument it's not good for, the U.S. long-term future, but for Adam Boatsman as a taxpayer this year and probably next year, I'm just not seeing changes. I mean, they're just, I think it's going to be tough to see that are going to impact our client base. I mean, it's going to be tough to see anything happen with the Build Back Better bill, that's going to impact, individual rates or small business rates, I think, just based on where that's sitting at. I think the capital gains rate, that was, pretty close to dead on arrival anyway. So I'm not, I don't see that changing anytime soon. And even if it did change, what would end up happening with the change is that, after the November midterms, Democrats would still have to retain control of everything, probably have boosted their power in the Senate, and then decide to raise capital gains rates and declare like a demarcation zone of any transaction entered into after this, particular effective date, which would end up being 2023 sometime. I feel pretty confident in 2022. We're things could always change, but I feel pretty confident in 2022. We're pretty well dialed in, and I'm feeling fairly confident. If I'm putting that at a percentage wise, I'm putting that at like 99%. If I'm looking at 2023, I'm probably putting it at maybe 75 to 80%. The rates are going to stay intact for 2023. Again, within our wheelhouse, which is small to mid-size domestic companies. So, and then, not uber wealthy individuals, but, people that don't necessarily feel wealthy, but is defined by the federal government are wealthy people. So that's a positive. I think at the same time, the same thing that's causing all the stalling, in terms of getting anything done, as it relates to stimulus associated with anything else, if I'm putting a confidence interval on this one too, I might give this one at like 85, 90% too. I just don't see him changing anything related to ERC for Q4 2021, like going retroactive and making that effective. I don't see a recharge of PPP. I doubt there's going to be a recharge of the restaurant revitalization fund, even though there's talk of it, with the Omicron surge. And I don't see a recharge of EDL. Another round. I think we're done. I mean, what we got is what we got. I think we're probably done on the stimulus round. Just because there's just fatigue, I think. So I just don't see a lot more happening beyond what's happening. The positive side is tax rates probably means they're not going to change. Negative side is any future stimulus probably not going down, in my opinion, unless like massive zombie apocalypse shutdowns, happen. And I don't see that happening in the US without some massive turn for the worse, other than what's happening with Omicron right now. So that's my tirade, and I'm sticking to it, Gary.
That's pretty mild, man.
Yeah.
I think we all got worn out in our offsite planning session yesterday. Q1, Robert Fish did a great job. We got a lot accomplished. It was a lot of fun, but man, your brain hurts a little bit after you go through a strategic planning session all day. Jack, you got to have something on like what's happening with the Supreme Court on this whole mandate thing. Like, I haven't had time to even look at any news. So fill us in on some of that. And how does that apply to business owners?
They're still thinking about it in summary, essentially. I mean, there's been nothing that I'm aware of that has come down that has been one way or another, which basically means at this point, the status quo is what it is, which means that the mandate, at least, again, as we talked about in the past, kind of bifurcated, which is for the private sector and then the governmental sector. And the way that they have the White House has a tighter hold on the governmental sector is through Medicaid and through programs like that they can say, okay, if you want federal funding and continue to receive federal funding, then you have to do certain things that we tell you have to do, which is go get your vaccines and wear masks and do these other things. And so that's the way they're getting through because of that. Speaking of which, I agree that, or I think that we are going to have a zombie apocalypse at some point when our vaccines mutate, and then so we have and then also people are saying, well, we've been microchipped, but we've been microchipped for a very long period of time, and it's in the form of these devices. So really, all that is fine and dandy. The issues continue with hiring and finding qualified people to work, or even just people to work. And that I've seen a lot of seminars and webinars of service providers or people who have advice on how to best lure people to come work for you. And it's really, the formula is pretty simple. It is, you create the most friendly work environment with less restraints. And the challenge is that I just made that statement, but there are two versions of that as far as being friendly. And, and a given is the compensation. So compensation, benefits, et cetera. So really the variable is a comfortable work environment, is it somewhere where there are strict rules with respect to no one steps foot in the building or in the office if they're vaccinated. And actually there's variations of it. So that's one. The middle ground is, well, either you're vaccinated or you provide proof of testing of a negative test. And the third is, okay, well, I don't believe that anyone should be forced to be vaccinated. It should be a choice. And so you have kind of those three pathways, which is not helpful for employers in trying to navigate through all that and trying to make decisions, because there is at least, when we've talked about this as well, which is any decision you make is fraught with danger. So if you create an environment where you are forcing employees to get vaccinated, and let's say they comply with that, and something does happen to them medically, heart attack, death, disability, okay, is that your fault now? Now, yes, we are in control of our own bodies, okay? We're human beings, we can make decisions, we're sentient beings. However, are you being coerced into doing that because you have to keep your job? The answer kind of falls that, well, no, you can go get a different job in a different work environment. But after the fact, isn't it easy to say, well, I did this because you asked me to do it or you mandated it, and so now I have this in me. The flip side of that is, or another side of that is, well, you didn't enforce these rules. And so now I'm around someone that I got COVID from, and I have an adverse reaction. Now, the person who's having an adverse reaction, are they vaccinated or not vaccinated? So then, it's this web of just intellectual at this point possibilities, because they're not legal. They're not legal conclusions yet as to who has to blame or who should bear the responsibility for all of this. And as far as testing, and as far as who bears the medical bills and everything else. So as you can see, I'm just touching on the surface of issues that are going to be with us for years to come on the medical side of things. And then on the PPP side of things and the monetary side of things, I agree with Adam that I'm not seeing a whole lot of enthusiasm for injecting more money into the economy as a subsidy for lowered revenue, et cetera. I think we injected enough. We've given business owners and employees and everyone else an opportunity to adjust to the new norm. And so this is the new norm, and just get used to it. We're not going to continue to filter money and push money into the environment, the economic environment. So you make your choices and you roll with it and move forward. Then you have the inflation issues, which we can touch on as well, which is, okay, what's going to happen? How do we control that? What's the Fed going to do? How does that impact us? Excuse me. I know it impacts. Wow.
Cocoa time.
Woo. Wow. That was salt from roasted almonds that I was eating before. All right. What's going to happen with all of that? I know that my grocery bill is significantly increased. My gas bill is on and off increased. So you have all those issues coming on too, which impact kind of the bottom line and impact, business. So you have all these things that are going on behind the scenes financially. So it's just a lot to grapple with. And I wish that we could say, okay, if you do A, B, C, and D in this order, then you should be okay, because it does depend upon you and your business and really your industry and everything else. So a lot of variations, but I think that, Adam hit on the constants, which is likely not additional money being put into your pockets from the government. And then as far as the vaccine mandates and other stuff, still, stay tuned. We'll figure at some point we will get what has been handed down from the Supreme Court, but understand that they're only really dealing with it and basically saying yes or no. They don't provide an alternative. You typically do not provide the alternative course. It is, okay, what you've said is not permissible. So we're throwing it back to you, federal district courts and others, to figure it out and come up with a better plan. And then if you need to, filter it back up to us, and then we'll decide if that was the appropriate plan. So the Supreme Court is not the answer or the alternative answer. It is basically saying yes or no to what has been proposed to them, or what is out there. So, and that's something that people have been asking me. It's like, okay, we're going to know. It's like, we're going to know whether or not it's okay or not okay. But if it's not okay, then there has to be an alternative plan put together. And that's not what the Supreme Court's going to do. So it's going to be delayed even further. So that's everything pretty much in a nutshell.
All right. The wheels of bureaucracy moving slowly or not. All right. So any questions out there? Surely there's got to be some questions. Robert Mayetta's on here. I'm counting on you, Robert. Yes, you are on here. Come on, Robert. You got a question in there somewhere. Hey, here's a question for you guys. Do you remember who won Jack's coffee card last week? Does anybody remember that? Because he needs to remember.
Okay, so to fill time, I'll follow my own sword. So at the time, it was in the chat, right? And then so I cut and pasted it, like I copied it, but I ended up not pasting it. And then, you know, what happens when you turn your computer off and turn it back on? It's like all that stuff goes away. So I'll go back and review the recording to see who it was. But if
all right,
yeah, so that's on me. But
it was a woman.
Yeah. I have it somewhere.
I remember that.
We'll find it.
All right. Any questions out there? Come on.
Here's some big news. Here's some big news. I forgot. That was just as I was going through and kind of do some research. Big news. Former American Idol contestant Clay Aiken running again for U.S. Congress. And the area that he's going to represent or he's running for, I think, is Greensboro, North Carolina 6th District. So he'd be running against Democrat David Price. I think maybe he tried this previously and didn't get very far. So anyway, those of you in the Greensboro area, Greensboro, Winston-Salem, yeah.
He just needed to sing more. You know, he was talking too much and singing too little. So maybe he'll learn from that. There you go. So this is from Robert Mayetta. I knew I could count on you, Robert. I agree with everything that was said. Inflation is the hot issue. So no stimulus until after the election in the fall. No questions this week, but thanks. Oh, just thought of one. Since there are still EIDL funds, can we still apply for them? Ooh, that's a good question.
I'll stall for time and cover off on inflation. I'll the answer, but I thought the EIDL application was through the end of the year, through the end of last year, but don't quote me on that. So I would think that they're just, you know, unappropriated funds if they're still sitting outstanding. But I'm guessing Jack will get us the answer in terms of when the EIDL recharge cutoff was in place. But you know, in terms of inflation, thanks for asking, Robert. You know, we kind of get into, oh my gosh, the price of gas, price of milk, and that's important. And price of gas really hits you in the sense of when your business involves fuel costs. But you know, all of us are experiencing something right now in some capacity in terms of our own cost structure going up. And I'm just going to use BGW as an example. You know, love all the people that work here. And at the same time, the market shifted. I mean, labor is pretty short. You know, our folks are getting calls from headhunters all the time, you know, and because the labor is really tight and we need, you know, we got to remain competitive on the pay front. And, you know, this year has resulted in kind of a, you know, one-time pretty significant change for some people that, you know, we hadn't really anticipated doing because, you know, the salary surveys we use that were based on, you know, last year's data, that's out of date now. It's like literally, you know, up to the minute, what's going on in the market. We had to remain competitive. And if you think about our business as an example, you know, labor and benefits is about 50% of our overall cost structure. So, you know, if we need to do across the board, you know, 10% raises, you know, that equates to a 5%, you know, overall cost structure change that if we don't do something on the pricing side or, you know, absorb some idle capacity, then we're going backwards. So I think, you know, so for, you know, so we've done some price increases as a result of that, especially in places where we're underpriced. But I just, you know, if people haven't been doing it, it's in January. I mean, if you haven't done it in the past, it's time to do it. If you have done it, but you treated it as like a check the box exercise, you know, or even if you did it and it's not a check the box exercise, just go back and look at your budget and your forecast in terms of your cost structure to make sure that, you are effectively pricing things reflecting what will likely be a higher cost structure, and or, kind of make some conscious decisions on how you can communicate that information to people, going forward. Because even if your decision is to not raise prices, my opinion would be suffering in silence on that would be silly. I would let my customers know, hey, look, we had a massive cost structure change, but I'm not passing that on to you as a reward for your loyalty, or alternatively, we had a massive cost structure change. And as a result of that, I'm going to have to make some movement on some pricing. However, you're not bearing the whole brunt of it. We're kind of sharing it, so I think evaluating what it's going to do to you and then communicating it is something that people should be focused on in the month of January if you've not been doing it already.
Yeah, I just had a call with a fractional head of sales. He's got a cool business, and one of his clients, same thing, they were getting poached, and so they just decided they were going to institute pretty significant pay increases, but it also translated in, all right, all of our costs, all of our pricing is going up to our clients. We're passing along 10%. Boom. Just went like that. So, and that was just this last week that I heard about that. So hopefully those are good thoughts, good questions, Robert. Thank you.
So do you want me to actually answer his question now that Adam has sufficiently talked slow?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and this is as you thought, Adam, which is, at the end of the year was the cutoff. There's two exceptions or two kind of caveats to that. One is if you were denied, and so the reconsideration, you can get it reconsidered. And then also, if you did get your application in, but you are entitled to, or you can apply for more funds because there's more funds left, then you can do that as well. So you can ask for more, or you can ask for reconsideration if you were denied, but there are timing issues, and it's either 30 days or 6 months, depending on whether it was a denial or if it was a denial for the reconsideration to be reconsidered, which is a technical point. So, but yeah, you were spot on. End of the year was, if you didn't get it in, then you're not eligible for EIDL funds.
You mentioned something about the war on talent, Jack, and the reality is, you've got to be competitive from a price standpoint and this and that. But if your culture is terrible and you treat people badly and you're inconsistent on your rules and regulations, or you're onerous on them, and it doesn't matter how much money you're going to throw at somebody, that you won't keep them. And so, we've got a lot of clients that really care about their people, and we care about our people too, but we seem to attract like-minded people where, hey, if you don't have a good culture, why are you doing it? But I think it really does matter. And when the tables turn, and they will at some point, how your employees respond to, and if they held you over a barrel now, the tables do turn. And so, just this reciprocity and mutual respect for one another is really important.
I think a lot of the non-monetary compensation has become important. I shouldn't say compensation, but let's call it accommodations, which I personally, and I think that our management really hadn't anticipated. Whereas, prior to COVID and us, many of us going remote, it was, we had the capabilities for people to work remotely. We had our VPN set up and, those kind of things, but it was really for special circumstances, like someone was sick or had to be at home with a sick parent or sick child or something. It's like, take a loaner laptop. Here's how you access the VPN, and you continue to work. And now it's flipped to a point where some workers not in our shop necessarily, but just in general, employees are demanding a hybrid schedule, that are saying, okay, well, I want to come to work with you, for you, or with you, or continue to work with you, but I have enjoyed working from home. I think I'm more efficient. I can start dinner earlier, or I can, I'm just more efficient. And from an employer standpoint, how many times have you gotten that email or that text, hey, I'm stuck in traffic, or, you're supposed to be somewhere after hours for an appointment or whatever it may be, and you're stuck in traffic. So there are gained efficiencies by providing that to a workforce. And then there's the other side of it also is it's a matter of trust. It's like, okay, is that person really working as hard in their living room or their home office as they would be in the shop? There's also the psychological element, which I'm trying to be very mindful of in my shop with my corporate group, and having some younger attorneys who, when I was growing up from a baby attorney, was having those mentors that I could walk down the hall and ask a question of, and, get a very quick answer, or, just kind of jokingly, I've been in the office most of this week, actually all this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and just, joking around with people and just checking in with people. And so that, you talk about culture and the anti-culture of working remotely, even though we're on screens with each other. And so you have to think about those kind of things. But I think that we're all struggling and trying to figure out what the right pathway for us with respect to this hybrid work environment is. There are some in my office that want to work in the office, and they feel like they're most efficient. And that way, when they're done, and they don't have to deal with it. There is a propensity. It's like, okay, 5:05, 5:30 or so, and you continue because it's right there, and you feel like, okay, well, I normally would be in the car. So so again, the back and forth of that, and we each have to figure, as business owners, have to figure it out amongst ourselves as to what is best for our shop and this like group psychology of the business.
Yeah, you nailed it. I agree. Our offsite yesterday, a couple people were dealing with COVID, the rest of us on our management team. So we did a hybrid in-person coaching day and Zoom. Well, think about that. 2 years ago, we would have bumbled and fumbled but it was seamless, and we've kind of made it work, and we're all just kind of like, okay, well, this is how we do it. And I think about it, it's been almost 2 years of this, and it's like 2 weeks. And I remember people like, this is going to kill it. Everybody, well, we've adapted and overcome, and it has had issues with people. We've had, good friends that were killed from it, and we've seen companies struggle with it, and we've seen companies that have done well in spite of it. Depends on the industry, depends on, how people pivoted, et cetera. One thing that I came across that we're kicking the tires on is this thing called HiRect, and you can look it up at HIRECT. And I did a post a couple of days ago on LinkedIn about it, and I don't know, it had 60-some thousand views of it already, but it's an app that is a free app. And I loaded a real company or a real open job that we've got on it. And it took me 90 seconds to, scrape stuff and throw it over there at the most. And I had candidates that hit immediately, and it has this chat feature back and forth, which is really cool. Like and they built this thing that's out of San Francisco. They built it for startups, where you're moving fast, especially with developers or whatever, but it's, it deals with all industries and lots of different sizes of companies now too. But the first thing, so there was one candidate in particular that's here in Charlotte that I found interesting. And her first chat question is this a remote position? That was the first question. And I said, actually, it's a mix of both. And she goes, oh, cool. That sounds great. But, this whole flexibility thing, and we had it anyway. We truly did, but it's being taken advantage of even more so. And I personally like being in the office at least one day a week. I was in there Tuesday coaching, and it was good to see people. But and we'll get past this wave too, it'll pass too. But anyway.
An interesting fact too is there are a lot of young professionals or just young employees out of school, but also new employees to a business who have never met their colleagues or their bosses in person. And I think it was Brian Moynihan at the Charlotte Chamber of the Business Alliance gathering a couple of weeks ago who said, yeah, we have some young analysts who have not met their bosses in the Bank of America food chain yet in person, and it's all been via Zoom. So, but that also, when you think about, again, the impact on the culture of having, for us, like a third year or fourth year associate, well, I guess the analogy would be is having a third year associate who has never stepped foot into our office if it were closed. I mean, I work in one of the B of A buildings uptown, and it is zombie land. I mean, you do get some traffic of people, but everything shuts down. The Starbucks, the Walgreens, the restaurants all shut down early now still. And on certain days, it's, I have a private elevator essentially, both going in and leaving. Parking deck is mostly empty, except in our section. There's a lot of attorneys who are going in, and our staff is going in. But as far as kind of like the general population inside of the 277 belt, it's like being there on a Sunday afternoon when there's not a football game going on, essentially. So it'll be interesting. I think, we look back 10 years from now, 15 years from now, what really was the impact on businesses and not having that close in-person contact on a routine daily basis.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to ask a question back to Robert. You've asked so many questions. I get to have a question back to you. Robert Mayetta with Survival CFO is a fractional CFO. What are a couple of the biggest challenges that your clients are dealing with right now? Inflationary pressures, war on talent, et cetera. And how are you helping them navigate? I know I put you on the spot, Robert, but I'd love to have you chat us up and give us some wisdom if you're still on. If not, anybody else have any questions? Kind of a light day, and it's a beautiful day.
Someone said it was
get out there and enjoy.
I don't know if it's snow later, snow this weekend, what it is, but
oh yeah. All right, so yeah, Robert has.
Hey, Robert, good luck. That's never going to happen right now. Go ahead and ask the question, Gary.
Yeah. His challenge is hiring quality employees at a fair price.
Yeah. I got to tell you, going back to using the BGW story as an example, I mean, kind of for the first, and to reiterate a little bit about what Jack's talking about, new associates, that have started in the middle of a pandemic. It's like, we've had some people that have started a BGW that, I've never had a chance to meet live, never actually worked in the office. And that's just difficult. So you've never really had too much of a chance to establish a root hold and some culture with these people. Cause, we haven't mastered remote culture. I don't know if anybody has, unless they always were remote, but we have not mastered remote culture. We continue to try, but we have not mastered it yet. And I would say, we're beyond novice, but not much beyond novice. If I'm just, honestly self-assessing where we're at. So from that in mind, we've got a handful of talent recruiting companies as clients, and I've asked them for advice in this department in terms of like, what's it like? What are people expecting from a salary? Like what's going on? I mean, the demands are, again, if using our business as an example, but it's actually, kind of across the board happening. One, what's my signing bonus? Two, across the board, 15 to 20% higher than what that range was supposed to get last year. Three, I'm only doing it if I can work remote, which is the norm. Sometimes you get the exception of I'm okay with coming to the office. So it is an employee's market, and there's just not unless you think through like outsourcing to another country or something, I think we're just stuck with it for a period of time. And I'll go back to the original thing we talked about when we started talking about labor shortages, that what we also have to consider is that, remember, the baby boomers were called the baby boomers for a reason. It was a period of population expansion. We've also been in a period of population decline. And I think the pandemic has just caused a lot of people to say, piss on that, I'm getting out. So we also have less workers available, period. Not even like the staying at home, but in terms of like, supervisory level positions that have normally been the gray hairs doing it, and you're looking for a Gen X or Gen Y replacement, good luck. There's less of us as a Gen Xer. I mean, there's less of me than the baby boomers. So it's embarrassing to say that I'm a Gen Xer at 48, meaning like I don't feel like a Gen Xer anymore in that normal context, but there's just less of us. So there's less people to fill the roles. That problem is not a zombie apocalypse problem. That problem, all it did is the Band-Aid got ripped off a little bit quicker than planned due to the zombie apocalypse, but it was always here as a problem. I mean, same thing probably applies to Jack's business in terms of like, that whole too many lawyer things. I suspect there's probably less people going to law school today than there was yesterday too. So it's like the same problem I suspect exists.
Yeah, and I think people are really taking a look at their mortality, or kind of where they're at in life and what's going on in their lives, and what's important to them, and kind of like, okay, well, wait a minute, I only have a few more years with my parents, I only have a few more years with my kids at home, or I want to spend more time with my kids at home if they're younger. I mean, all those things. And so the remote allows for that, to be able to be in your household. And then once you're done at 5 o'clock, let's say, that you walk out the door and you're there, versus spending 45 minutes or an hour in your car driving from uptown to South Charlotte. So there is that. And so it's just, again, the demands that, and also I think technology and social media allows for comparisons, and allows for this inflation of demands, where you can get on a messaging board for young professionals by industry or generally, and someone can post, oh yeah, I just accepted a job for $150,000. And then it's like, oh, really? And it just builds upon itself and builds upon itself. So there is a huge inflation in my industry. I think also in the accounting industry and other professional service industries, as well as otherwise, that may not have been there or been capable of escalating so quickly, but for social media and the ability to share information either accurately or inaccurately and anonymously. You don't have to put your name on everything that you post out there. And so, you have all those factors weighing into higher compensation, both monetary and non-monetary, and higher demands for accommodations for things like remote work or hybrid, or, hey, I will work, and not just hybrid full days, but all right, I'll come in, I'll work till about noon, I'll drive home, and then I'll work for a few hours from home, kind of thing. So there's all kinds of variations that go with that. And as employers, as business owners, we have to navigate through that and just be, a lot of times, accommodative and not be, I would say, stubborn or arrogant that it's my way or the highway. I've had clients that have, I knew that going into this, they were going to have a problem with it, because it's like, well, why do we have to do these things? They should want to come work for us. We're a great opportunity for these employees to come and do this stuff. And it's like, well, yes, but someone has provided an even better opportunity right next door, and they've upped their game. And so it just, again, builds upon each other. So those are the things that I think all of us are facing and will continue to face for the indefinite future.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Any other questions? It's been kind of a light day out there. Speaking of light, get outside. It's beautiful and sunshiny, and it's not snowing yet. Sunday, make sure you get your bread and milk and toilet paper before Sunday, because we could have a flurry of snow.
We received a message from our office administrator that bring your, speaking of remote work, make sure you bring homework with you, including a device if you need it, home with you tomorrow, just in case you don't end up in the office. So I think Monday is a office holiday anyway, but
yeah, it's MLK.
So, yeah. So yeah.
Anybody wanting to go skiing, probably a good thing. One of my good friends over Christmas, he had rented a place up in Winter Place, and they had 3 days of skiing that were scheduled, but it was 62 and raining the whole time. Oh man, that's a bummer. So anyway, if for all those skiers out there, this weekend may be your weekend. So thank you for joining us. Last call for questions. Jack, I hate to even do it, but I'm going to do it. Do you have any dumb dad jokes?
I don't, because I don't have a calendar anymore. And I should have, I had a pile of them that I was saving throughout the year for emergency purposes like this. And then I think either I threw them away inadvertently, or maybe someone in my family somehow got into the recycling pile. I'm not sure, because I can't find them. So either I did it psychologically, subconsciously, for all of your benefit, or I don't know. So
yeah, everybody, you've been spared. All right. Robert paid your wife to toss him. That's hilarious.
I hope it was a high fee.
Yeah.
A lot of money.
That's funny. Well, everybody, thank you for joining us. We will put this up on the BGW CPA YouTube channel this afternoon. Thanks to Rachel Cofftree doing that for us. But in the meantime, if you have any questions and you need some help, feel free to email me and I'll connect you. I am a connector. So it's GFREY@trustbgw.com. Happy to help in any way I can. Adam, good to have you back again. We missed you last week. And Jack, it's good to see you again too.
Thank you, guys. All right. Have a great rest of the week.
Over and out. Have a good one. See y'all.
See you guys.